Kevin Johnson, would you lead us in the pledge today?
Certainly, the honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, would you open in prayer?
Father, we thank you for your amazing grace. We thank you for this day. And we ask, God, that you be with us in this meeting. Give us all wisdom, guidance, and direction, Lord, in all that we do. Help us, Lord, to be about the business of the county and the citizens thereof. And we'll give you all the praise. And we ask it all in Jesus' name. And everybody said,
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to February 17th Commissioners Meeting. We'll get kicked off with the approval of the meeting minutes for February 10th.
Sir, I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of February the 10th as submitted.
A second.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of request for appropriation of funds,
Do you have any comments or questions on item number 2? Hearing none?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of accepting miscellaneous reports,
Any comments or questions on our miscellaneous reports?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of request for appropriation transfer of funds,
Any comments or questions on item 4? Hearing none?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye. Go ahead.
In the matter of notification from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding Weaver's Gas and Oil doing business as Rusty Fork.
Any comments or questions on item 5?
Is this a renewal or a new?
This is, I want to say it's a new
I
request,
think it, yeah, I wasn't sure.
which will go before the voters since it's liquor.
Rusty Cork.
This is on the west side? Yeah. Yeah, it's new. Any other comments or questions?
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of awarding bid for the SOAR Industrial Park sanitary sewer extension regarding Sauter County sanitary engineer.
This is related to the bid opening we had last week. The bid award is for Southern Ohio Trenching and Excavating upon the recommendation of J.P. Picklesheimer. We appreciate J.P. and everything he's doing on this project. This is in the amount of $80,000, and the alternative number 1 was $100 per cubic yard. Any comments or questions? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of easement and right-of-way between the Sauter County Board of Commissioners and AEP regarding Barclow Extension Road.
This is just giving them the easement to continue to build out there on Barclay Road Extension. Any comments or questions? Hearing none.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of resignation from the Sauter County Veteran Service Commission.
Mr. Anthony Hamilton has submitted his letter of resignation from the Sauter County Veterans Service Board. We appreciate his service, as we do with all of our boards and our volunteer board members. He'll be missed, but we appreciate the time that he has put in with that board. Are there any extra comments or questions?
I too would like to thank him for his dedication and service.
Anyone who serves on that board does a great job, and they are a service to our veterans, our nearly almost 6,000 veterans in Sauter County. So we appreciate what he's done.
If there's no other comments or questions,
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
aye.
In the matter of authorizing the clerk to advertise notice to bidders for concrete and grout materials, aggregate materials, and emulsion, cutback, and primer materials regarding Sauter County Engineer.
Are there any comments on item number 9? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of authorizing matching funds for the 2022 Ohio Supreme Court Technology Grant.
This grant is in relationship to updating technology within the courthouse, cameras, platform. The letter of support is a 10% matching fund of $14,380.73 for the cameras and $12,227.63 for the security project portion of the equipment. Once again, this is related to the Ohio Supreme Court Technology Grant. Appreciate the work that Sean Davis and Ryan Cheeser has put in on this. We've had an audit. They come down and they audit services and security. And one of the areas that says we could have improvement is in this item. So thank you for the work that you guys have put in on this. But this is just our letter of support saying, yes, if we get the grant, we would do the 10% match. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of accepting an amended certificate from the Budget Commission.
Comments or questions on item 11? Hearing none.
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of accepting board minutes.
Any comments or questions on the board minutes we received? Hearing none.
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of resolution authorizing the chairman of the Board of Sauter County Commissioners to negotiate the purchase of real property.
Any comments or questions on item 13? Hearing none.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of approving the update of Appendix A to the Sauter County Commissioners Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual.
This is an update to our internal HR policy regarding our drug-free workplace. Some things we needed to adjust to make sure that we're compliant with BWC's drug-free workplace policy. Thank you, Ryan, again on this project. He's been working hard on this. It's a change we need to make sure that we qualify for BWC's, essentially their discount program. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Can I get a motion?
Oh,
Anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of agreement between the Sauter County Commissioners and Freedom Links regarding phone system maintenance contract.
Do we have any comments or questions on item number 15?
Yeah, on this, I think this is a good move. It begins the process of us moving away from Frontier. If anybody's noticed, we've been, how do I say this? Having some issues, and we are working to resolve that by slowly but surely removing ourselves from underneath Frontier, who seems to be having a lot of issues. So this will be for the maintenance of our Avaya phone system here, and this is the same phone system that's also at the Sheriff's Department, so we'll be able to recognize some synergies here, and this will be a good thing, a very positive move. So with that,
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
In the matter of memorandum of understanding between the Sauter County Commissioners, Sauter County Engineer, Morgan Township, and Jefferson Township Board of Trustees regarding joint program.
These are pretty common MOUs that we do, or the Sauter County Engineers Department does with the the different townships in terms of sharing equipment or taking care of different partials of easement if they're in the way. But it's good to see the collaboration between the township and the engineering department. It helps save the county money, helps save the township monies when they're kind of working together on these items as they come up. Any additional comments or questions?
I appreciate Engineer LeBrun and his efforts. I hear nothing but praise from the collaboration efforts with our townships. To hear that from the trustees and the fiscal officers, I know that they very much appreciate that collaboration. And he does a really good job of saving folks money. On top of that, I know the city of Portsmouth has now signed on to be part of the hot mix program, which will save them money per ton as well on hot mix. So that's paving. So that's really a hot button issue right now in the city. And this should help save them some money because of the tonnage. Mayor, I think you was part of that whenever you were in office there. So it's a positive thing, and I really appreciate his outreach to the townships and how they're working together to help all the citizens of Sauter County. So I'll leave it at that.
Any additional comments? Hearing none?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of approving payment of the regular schedule of accounts for the various funds, moral obligations, and then and now certificates in the total amount of $897,933.15.
Any comments or questions on item 17? Hearing none?
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Powell.
Aye.
In the matter of request of funds for Sauter County Children's Services.
I want to thank the board, Chairman Barnett, and the rest of the board members that could make it today. As we are well aware, we're in a crisis. I think it's fair to say that. I also want to make sure that people understand it's not the fault of the board, it's not the fault of Children's Services. When we are talking about doubling our population in the span of roughly 2 years, has the potential to break a system, and I think that's what we've seen here. So the board has put together an action plan for us. I know that I've been to a couple of the meetings. Commissioners Coleman, Commissioner Davis have not. Chairman or John, Chairman of the Finance Committee, if somebody could come to the podium, I'm sure there's some questions, because this is a big number. You know, we're asking for $2 million projected. It could be more if the number of kids go up. Quite honestly, that could be a higher number if we're successful in our efforts, and hopefully we are. That number could be lower, but the request is a projected if nothing changes, and I want to make sure people understand that. If nothing changes, if we stay at the same levels, if funding doesn't change or amount of kids in custody does not change, it's roughly $2 million. And I know I can see the solemn faces on the board members as I look at, because this is a heavy weight that I think all of us are shouldering at this time. So anxious to hear from you before we vote on this item. Who would like to come up? If you want to turn the camera on John, because he'll probably be talking most of the time.
Yeah.
And John is the chairman of the Finance Committee. They've been tackling this item in collaboration with other members of the board. So thank you all for being here. Okay. So whenever you're ready, let's, if we kick off just kind of where we're at, kind of what you've done so far, and maybe the plans to reduce the burden.
To speak a little bit about it, we started in, and I think everyone on the board is very, very aware, we started in, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, we started in 2021 with about a $1.4 million carryover. As the year progressed, the kids went up, the number of kids in custody. Kids in custody will cost the taxpayers approximately $10,000 a year if they're in our foster care. If they go outside, they're at the minimum of $20,000. Now, some of these kids need extra care. They've got issues, and that dollar amount even goes up higher. So clearly, the big dollars are in the children. So when you raise, Mr. Powell, as you said, when you raise the numbers by a few hundred kids over a short span of time, you basically double. When you go from 200 to 400 kids, then you've just doubled what we have to pay. Our carryover over 2021, the carryover was depleted. By the end of the year, there was no money. So, we've looked at, the board has looked closely at some cost-saving efforts. We have been in discussion with our director, Mr. Mantell, for some time about, what was on the horizon if the kids keep going up. Now, we did have it's kind of a yo-yo. It's up and it's down. And here recently, over the last month, we are down to some degree. But I think for future planning, the trend has been going up. So I think you have to go, the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. So I do believe that, it's a possibility that the numbers are going to go up. And if so, Mr. Powell Commissioner Powell was kind enough to meet with our board on multiple occasions and with Jason Mantell and Mara Adams to look at the finances, to look closely at the finances and what we may need. And it's not like a real easy accounting project where you say we're going to have this many kids and here's the dollars. When the kids are the yo-yo, then the dollars are clearly up and down. So, there is a projection of a possibility of needing $2 million. Do we know for certain? Well, no, not for certain, but it's a great possibility, and that's the best projection that could be done is $2 million. So at the end of the year, I think it would make all of us happy if we don't need $2 million, but since there's a possibility, we had a discussion with the board. We took the matter to the board, much discussion about, to be sustainable, we're going to have to do something besides come down to the commissioners and ask for $2 million for our dollars to be sustainable. At some point, there's going to be a levy requested. There's not really any other option. If these numbers stay the same, there's just not money to handle it. The only other option would possibly be to do what some counties may do, is to not be aggressive in the removal of kids when they need to be removed. And I don't think anyone in this room says, oh, well, that's a good option. Let's just send kids back to places where they don't belong. So since I believe all of us have a heart for the children, then we got to do what's right. We want to keep removing kids. That Judge Lemon does a good job with. I know he's had intervention for years in removals, and I think we want to continue at the rate of removals that we're at. We've got a good standard set, and we want to continue at that rate so that the removal of kids it's going to continue to be a yo-yo. But all we can do is the best job we can do in doing the removals with the understanding that there's a big dollar amount attached to that. So we did a financial study that was completed, as I said, by Mara, Jason, and Mr. Powell. We believe that we could be around $2 million. It went through the board. We discussed it. How do we ask for the money? What's the appropriate way to do it? With a levy possibly being in the future. We want to do everything we can in cost savings efforts, which we have a plan. Mr. Mantell has been, as we went through the plan, we had been discussing for a long time, and we before we had the plan submitted to the commissioners, Mr. Mantell got put in the hot seat, and it's like, all right, here's the issues. Where are we at? And and almost every issue that we talked about, there was something in progress. So I think that's probably what the community wants to see, that with on all the efforts that we can save money, if we can do a better job with the taxpayers' money, we want to do that. And we will continue to look into things that we can do better. But at this time, we're requesting a $2 million transfer into Children's Services account.
Okay. Thank you, John, and thank you, board. Once again, I know I've been into some conversations regarding the plan. First time I saw it was last week because I know it wasn't finalized. So, and then the other commissioners had as well. Are there questions regarding the current plan that we have? I have a couple, but I don't want to take all the time. I think when we met, one of the questions I had is, are the recommendations that we make, yeah, you can turn that back. Are the recommendations made attainable and achievable? And I think, what does that look like? So for instance, item number 1 for the long-term care or long-term goal is to utilize what's called the 12 out of 22 month. And basically, if a kid's been in custody 12 out of 22 months, we can go for permanency, then possible adoption or some sort of permanent placement for these kids, and ramping up adoptions. This plan is estimating if we, and I'm just reading from the plan, if we could get 100 of them adopted, there's a minimal cost of 100 kids. It's times 2750. That's if they're all in network. Could be a savings of a little over $1 million a year. I guess my question is, I think since Jason, since you've been here, how many adoptions have we truly had?
So in the year and a half I've been here, I believe the number is 15. Now, we
Okay.
have some others that are obviously early stages of the process, but we have had, it's either 14 or 15 in the last year and a half.
And Ryan, if we can get a microphone as we're kind of just shuffling through, because I'm sure the public's going to want to hear the nuance of this, because it's easy to say, hey, do this, do that, but there's a lot of nuance to what is in this system. So you see 15 over about 18 months?
15 in about 18 months, yes. And it's my, just from discussions with other directors, the pandemic has slowed adoptions. I mean, it's slowed a lot of things, but
Sure.
I do know, I can't speak historically what we've averaged as an agency. I don't know. I don't have those numbers, but like I said, just for the sake of your question, it's been a little shy of 1 per month.
So I guess my question is, if we're saying 100, and I know that's a number, how do we get there? Like, for me, it's the how. I think we all know that we probably need kids out of the system sooner, but what's not evident to me is how. If we've been able to do 15 and 18, how long is it going to take us to do 100? How long is it going to take? And is that extra resources, which comes at a cost? Is it doing business differently? I don't have that answer. Does anybody in this room have insight there?
I can speak to the process. I can't speak to exactly how we get to a specific number. If you'd like me to address.
Well,
to
I'm
address
just
the
wondering,
process.
I guess the quick question is 100 reasonable,
In a year,
even in 2 years? Because
I mean, in theory, we put together plans. I don't know that that's attainable. That's not a number I would feel comfortable saying, yes, we can have 100 children adopted in 2 years, but I also don't want to put a flat no against that. So
Understood.
if you don't mind, I can expand a little bit.
yeah, please do.
So we have an agreement or an upcoming MOU with the Wendy's Wonderful Kids, which is through the Dave Thomas Foundation. So one of our supervisors and I have developed an agreement at no cost to the agency. For them, we would work with an outside agency who specifically concentrates on children in permanency to be adopted. And this would allow us to work with an outside agency as part of our team to expedite this process. Now, again, it's not as simple as that. I mean, obviously there are, with the amount of children in care, we obviously have to work through the court system. We have to work through our attorneys. And so there is a process to it. So I think we can expedite the process through the Wendy's Wonderful Kids Foundation. I would be hesitant to put any type of guarantee on a specific number. I do think this process will expedite, and I do think the numbers will increase. I'm very confident in that. But until we begin that process with this outside entity, it's very difficult to put a number on it.
Okay, thank you.
If I may expound on that, if you do the math, that's at current trending, that's 7 years to reach 100. And we don't have that kind of time. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think what the missing variable here is that you can't read the hearts of individuals on adopting. I mean, there's just no way you can do that. I mean, if the individuals in our community don't step up and do that in a more appreciable way, we're not going to see that, as well as even entering into foster care. If we don't have more, we've talked about this, about needing more foster parents for, I know, over 2 years. I mean, I had a Facebook memory. I'm sure everybody gets their memories and it reminds you of what you did 10 years ago, which may or may not be flattering. But I had one come up from 2 years ago where we made a public appeal. We need more foster parents. Now, we may or may not be getting those via other agencies, but as far as our local, I mean, I remember 2 years ago we had 26 and now we're sitting at 24, so we've actually stepped backwards. We've actually went backwards. So how do we get that number up and get people to actually be willing to do it? I think that was another part of the plan, a matter of fact, was, increase foster parents. It's very hard, especially during the pandemic. Let's just face it. I mean, everybody was worried about their finances and everything else. And then let's not forget this too, and I think this is something that everybody needs to keep in mind, is the state of Ohio is not funding children the way they should be. We should not be in a fiscal situation like we are right now. The bottom line is, you're here today asking for $2 million. You took a $1.4 million swing of boarding in 2 years, according to your financials. How do you absorb that as a board? There's no way. Without additional revenue, it wouldn't matter who sat on this board, you'd still be in the same situation because of lack of revenue. It wouldn't matter. So, and that revenue truly should come from the state of Ohio. That is the model. That's the way it's set up to be, is state and federal funds fund children's services. And what is happening, and here's what's going to happen today, is that we are providing funds to make up that difference. I'm not sure about the exact statistics, the dollar values at the state level, but my understanding is, and we have talked, look, our representatives, Representative Aldridge, Senator Johnson, they're on our team. They are fully aware of the problems and they want to help. But they also have all these other people they work with in Columbus. And there's a lot of people who don't think there's a problem. But they're not us. They're not down here. They're not seeing 366. Is that where we're at? Which is down from 395. They're not seeing those numbers. Okay? Was that the right number? Are we?
Yeah, that's where we are. We did.
360?
We're in the mid 360s right now. We
Yeah,
have.
I mean, it's right there. We
Yes.
actually saw a drop.
Yes.
But still, it's very high. We're still looking at large municipality, Cleveland type numbers in our children's services. So, but what I was driving at was, even with the increase, and this agency saw a blip. I think it was a blip. It really wasn't a bump in funding increase last year. Even with that, the state of Ohio approved these funds. We're still 50th. We're the 6th richest state, but we're still 50th in children's initiatives. That's terrible. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody needs to correct me, but I mean, go right ahead, because I've been reading this stuff for too many years now. But it all begins in Columbus, and we're working, we're trying, we're lobbying, we're talking, and you all have too. You all have too. You have reached out, you have tried, and without additional funding, it's going to fall at the local level. It is. And I said this 3 years ago in this room, and I'm pointing, Jen was over there. Kathy, you'll remember, I made the comment, I said, if we don't get this opioid epidemic and the fallout from it, and I think at the time we was even talking about children's services then, if we don't get this under control, it will bankrupt the county eventually. That was a quote. I remember saying it. Well, where are we today? Here we are. And it's the beginning. It's the beginning of that. And I don't know, I've got meetings tomorrow in Columbus, Chairman, and I'll be bringing this up as our #1 issue, because as I mentioned this morning to the Chairman, I said this is probably the greatest threat to our county fiscally that we have had in 8 years. It is. I mean, when you're bleeding $2 million a year, Rodney, that's going to be the case if we don't find additional revenue. So we'll talk more about that additional revenue here in a second, but I want to say this to the board. Look, like I said, no one's pointing fingers here. I hope you all don't feel that way. I think this is, look, we got a problem here, and we got to work it out. We got to fix it, okay? But I have great faith and confidence in our people, in that You know, I remember when I came into office 7 years ago, and Doug and Mike and Skip at the time were digging themselves out of fiscal emergency. Okay, we did that. We did that. You know, matter of fact, we amazed the Attorney General and the treasurer at the time that we were, or the auditor, I'm sorry, at the time that we did that, and we were actually coined as the Comeback County by Dave Yost at the time. I mean, I remember being in the room when he said that, okay? And it happened in record time, 3 years we came out of a fiscal emergency. How did that happen? We tightened our belt straps, we did everything we had to do, we invested where we needed to, but we figured it out and we did it. This is an opportunity for improvement. It's a major problem, but it's an opportunity for improvement, it's an opportunity to fix it. The variables that we're dealing with are things that we cannot control. We cannot control people, whether or not they'll foster or adopt. We can't control it. That's an unknown variable to a degree. We do have foster parents out there, and I'm sorry I'm belaboring this,
No, you're
but
fine.
we have people out there that are willing to do it. We got to get them through the system faster. That's something that we've talked about. We've added it. We've invested. We've added an attorney. We have worked with our juvenile courts. We've sat in meetings with them. We've asked, how do we move this stuff faster? You all have done the same thing. You've done the same thing. Jason, I know you have. You sit there and say, what do we need to do? And there are things that we can do. But the other thing we cannot control is we cannot control the number of parents that are not taking care of their kids. We cannot control that. And unfortunately, we have a high number in this county of parents or parent, a lot of times they're broken families, unfortunately, that become dependent. And a lot of what we're dealing with right now is literally, it's a tentacle of the opioid epidemic in our community. It is. And unfortunately, because of that, we have a lot of parents that have become dependent, and because of that, they're in the system some way, and that their kids have been taken from them. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that this is happening. But that's where we're at. And the question is, are we going to take responsibility for it? It's really easy to sit back and be an armchair quarterback and say, I didn't cause it. Wasn't my problem. It's not my problem. Why should I help pay for it? And that's real easy to say, I'm sure there are a lot of families out there that don't have an addicted child or addicted family member, but there are also a lot of other families that can say that and are going through it right now and are hurting. So we've got to identify the problems, work on them the best we can, reduce the $2 million over the next cycle, and try to make it to where it's not a total $2 million, that we've reduced it significantly, and that's working with the courts and everything else. But it's going to take a lot of work. This is going to take a lot of hands-on work to try to turn this around. But it's going to take everybody. It's not just something that this board can do. I mean, we can approve money. We can do that. But it'll eventually bankrupt us. It will. But what can we do? What can the rehab community do? What can they do? I mean, they've been tasked to fix this problem. So what can they do? There's a lot of them that are doing everything they can, but our numbers are going up. It's getting worse. We dipped down a little bit, but like John, I think you said, that's very much a moving target. I mean, it could very well go right back up. So very concerning how we're going to do this, but it's going to take a lot to reverse it. But I'm fully confident that the people that are tasked to do it can do it, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration to at least mitigate. You're not going to stop it. Not like this. I mean, at this point, the damage has been done. We've got to try to mitigate it and turn it the other way to where our numbers are going down. And right now, that's not happening inside of the county. So we have to do our best to try to mitigate what we're dealing with here, keep the costs as low as possible month by month, and then also rely on a lot of non-profs and profs that are working in our community right now They're supposed to be reducing the number of addicted individuals, reducing the moms and dads that are addicted to, you name it, everything under the sun. The way they're cutting everything now, it's incredible what everybody's on. But we've got to reduce that number and that dependency. And I'll even say this, I'm not for importing more of a problem into our community. That's part of our problem. We're importing more and more into our community. There's some people saying, oh, we need to bring everybody in. I'm not for that. We need to take care of our own. Other counties need to take care of their own. We've got a big enough problem here. We don't need a bigger problem here. And we're importing. I'm seeing a lot of people shaking their heads. Yes, I mean, it's true. We need to take care of our own. And other counties need to build out their infrastructure to take care of theirs. Because this is now not just a Scioto County problem. This is a statewide, national problem. Housing of children, what you're going through as a board, statewide. Everybody's dealing with it. Everybody. I'm hearing it from other county commissioners. Same thing, everywhere. They're running out of space. Everybody's running out. So this is not just a Scioto County issue. So we have an opportunity actually to show the way on how to fix it. Because guess what? In this opioid epidemic, Scioto County has always shown the way in a lot of ways. So here we have another opportunity to do the same. So I'm done for now. Thank you.
Any comments, questions,
Not
Commissioner
this
Coleman?
time.
I'm still working through the plan, because that's where my mind goes. I'm very much a numbers person. If you haven't figured that out by now, that's where my head goes. Yes. Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yes, please do.
Because we have a board member that she couldn't be here today. She worked very hard on putting a long list of them. I know you said you have speakers, Mr. President. I believe you asked the question about cutting the number from, the number was, to cut it was about one. The number to cut was about 100.
That's what is listed in the plan, and it might be a hypothetical.
And while I'm not saying that I completely agree with that number, I believe part of the reasoning behind that, I just wanted to throw this out there, is because we are using, because you were gracious, commissioners, to get us another attorney. And I believe part of the way to achieve that goal in her plan was by working through more of the cases, because now we have Attorney Young and Attorney Huddleston,
Yeah.
and we have Judge Lemon who is willing to work on these. So I believe the part of that plan is to process more of these cases through the legal system. So not only finding more families, but also processing more. And I think that was part of her ideology there.
I agree. And matter of fact, this is something we discussed the other day, was the plan was to close out the old cases. Is that the current attorney, Mr. Huddleston, was to close out all the old cases. Well, we have way too many cases over 2 years old. We agree, 100%. And that is something that needs to be corrected. Now, my understanding is he still works for you all. Is that right? So what communication has been given to him to get it done? With Mr. Lemons, also with Judge Lemons. Of course, that's the other part of this, but then Attorney Young works for Mr. Tiemann. And that there is a transition in the works there because Mr. Huddleston will be retiring. That was the whole plan, was to get all the old cases closed out, and Mr. Young was supposed to deal with all the new ones. Am I right?
That's what the plan was.
I'm happy,
Right.
I'm happy to speak to that, if you would. So,
Sir, if you would,
yeah,
please.
so that plan remains, and that was an initial goal. So what we ran into, the new attorney, Stephen Young, who does work for the prosecutor's office, so he became, I guess I'll use the term full swing over the summer, in June. So that's when that began.
There was a 6-month learning.
There was,
curve there,
well, it
sure.
wasn't quite 6. He did, in fairness to him, he picked up well. He and Dave Huddleston do fortunately work well together. And so that was the original plan. We sat, I sat in one of our offices at the agency. I sat with our administrative team and Mr. Huddleston. And we were talking, we formulated lists and to close. What we ran into, and you referenced the skyrocketing numbers, typically and historically, for every summer that I'm aware, and Mara's next to me, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, historically, our numbers go down in the summer, and we viewed that as the perfect time to enact what you did. The problem is, we saw the polar opposite over last summer. So we were getting so many new cases that it was too much for one person to handle. So they're both initially, over that 3-4 month span, we were removing nearly 2 to 1 over terminating because of the nature of specific situations in our community. So again, that's not an excuse. That's the reality of what we're facing. What we've been able to do, fortunately, at least in January, we safely terminated 25 cases, and that's how we were able to go from the mid 380s to the mid 360s. So we are now trying to reenact or start over with the plan that you're referencing. So it's the numbers increased by such a degree that there was no other option but to put both of them I mean, it's just the situation, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it is, and that is the reality of what we were dealing with. So again, we began that. I recall, I think the meeting I had with Dave Huddleston was in February of 21, and we had a list, and it began, and then Steve came on shortly after that. His training began, and then end of May, June, July, August, September, it was just, it was just a parade of removals. And we weren't able to terminate at that pace that we'd like to, because where we are, as important it is as important as it is to put children in permanency, to find their forever placement or home. The fact is, we have a certain amount of time we have to file for these removals, and those, like it or don't, they have to take precedence because we were limited within a 24-hour span to act on those.
One of the things we identified, because we've done a lot of research, Jason, and one of the things we identified is that one of the things that's lacking, and maybe you can speak to CPS on this, is that in our juvenile court, there is no software that tells them when they're approaching that 12 and 22 month period. And of course, when you have 300 some kids, that spreadsheet grows exponentially. But there is nothing that like throws a red flag up on your computer screen if you're a supervisor at CPS says, you've got such and such, they're reaching 12 months, they're reaching 22. There's nothing. And I don't know if the state has a system, but if not, we just need to develop our own. We talked to juvenile court about this, that we got to do something, because right now it just seems like you're putting out fires to me. And because of the absolute sheer magnitude of what you're dealing with, and a lot of people don't really understand, you're talking about 366 kids, that don't sound like a lot, but when you're dealing with all of the trauma and the mental health and the physical health, and you're dealing with parents, and you're dealing with families, and you're dealing with whoever's the foster and whoever's the kinship, and you have all these people involved, there is so much there. People don't really realize it's not as simple as just take somebody, put them in a house, you're done. There is so much that goes into this. So sometimes I feel like you're just kind of, we just kind of handle things, the emergencies, all the time. And that can happen in an organization. It really can. I mean, of course, you have to take care of the emergencies, but at what point do you get a handle on it? And it's, you know what I mean? I guess that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around is, what can we do? Technology is a great way to fix things, reduce costs. So if there isn't that system now, is that one that needs to be created, and would it help?
I mean, if that existed, it would help. What we're doing now is creating physical lists. That's another, we've provided juvenile court. We've discussed multiple lists, like, hey, how can we terminate safely group X, group Y, group Z? So there was a group we did focus on, and we are still working with that, and it's been fairly successful. I won't get into the specifics of it for confidentiality, but we have, there was a group that came, a lot of those came directly from court, and so we've worked on that. Now we are we're back to working on, you referenced the 12 out of 22, so that is something we're working on, and right now is a good time to begin that process. But again, you have scheduled hearings, and in fairness to juvenile court, they have hearings that have nothing to do with children's services. They have private custody all the time that does not involve us. So in addition, to what we have, and again, on our side, there are things that there are cases we have that haven't gone or don't go to juvenile court. If it's a family in need of services, it has nothing to do with removal. It has to do with they need some things in order, they don't want to lose custody. They haven't done anything they're trying to avoid that. So we have those cases as well, and we have another 150 to 200 investigations that exist that have yet to see court and may never. Hopefully they don't. And that's another component to what we do. So, it is a challenge. I don't disagree that it does seem like we're putting out fires. I feel like that. I feel like that a lot. That we're addressing surface level issues that we have no choice but to address right now. And again, to Commissioner Powell's point, I think you referenced something to this, and I don't want to misquote, but it is about funding and people. I don't think throwing money at problems just fixes everything, but in our case, the amount of staff we have compared to the amount of children and families we work with is simply not adequate, and we can't afford to hire anyone else. And if our numbers remain this high and our staff remains stagnant as far as numbers, we're going to continue to put out fires. And that's that. I'm not saying, there are some positive things that go on. There are some wonderful returns to families. There are some children who leave their families, it's terrible, and they get adopted and their lives are wonderful. And those should be celebrated. The problem is those right now are in the minority because of the sheer numbers of removals. And again, we hope that January continues a trend into the spring, and we can we can continue to safely terminate, return to family, or take permanent custody.
You brought up a good point about your labor, and that's something that's been talked about so often in your meetings. And I know, Betty, you have covered their meetings. This has been talked about several times. And I don't know who all watches, you hope that there's people that actually watch the meetings like we hope they watch this, and get the whole story, because there's a lot of misconception out there, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of people, they hear something bad, they automatically attack CPS, they automatically attack the board, or they attack Jason, or whatever. They like to attack the commissioners too. That's another issue. But we see this, and we hear about your funding issues. That was the other thing that did a major swing. Your boarding went up $1.4 million. There's your carryover, John. I mean, it wiped it out. Your labor, you were having a hard time keeping caseworkers. Am I right? I mean, that was something that was constantly being talked about, that you were paying too little, that it was like a revolving door, caseworkers, and it's still an issue. You're still dealing with that. And your labor went up in a period of 2 years, it went up $400,000. Mara, if I was reading that right, about $400,000. You see how we're getting close to the $2 million mark here? I mean, it's creeping up there, but you had no choice. When you were talking about paying your people more money, you guys were already talking about it. You were already saying, look, we're losing people. We can't keep them. You can't run a CPS without caseworkers. I mean, that's just the way it is. So you were having to pay more, but at the same time, you weren't bringing in more revenue. So as your expenses went like this, your revenue just stayed like this, and it apparently the two met. They met actually as early as June of 2021, but no, June of 2020. But your total reserves were out by December. I mean, you were done. So that's where we're at. But that was really, I think that's something everybody needs to understand too. Is it's really easy to point fingers and say they ran out of money and they did this and they did that, but that.
Couldn't stop it.
You couldn't stop it. You got to have additional revenue, or you were never going to be able to fix that. And you're still not going to be able to fix it without additional revenue, unfortunately.
If I may comment.
Sure.
All right.
No,
Please
anytime,
do.
Pat. Yeah. We just want to make sure you have a mic.
Yes, people can hear. And then state your name if you don't mind. We forgot to mention that.
Patricia Sarasso. I am a CPS board member. What I did want the commissioners to know that CPS board collectively decided that we needed, and we knew that all along, to try to get funding as much as we could. We are aggressively working on grants. We've spent the past month, I have a notebook that is full of data, trying to get a larger grant. We are hopeful that we will be able to get that. And I'm speaking to your concern, which is valid. What are you doing to try to help yourself? And that is one of the things. We are hopeful, if we can get that, and with the help of you, we are hopeful that we will be able to get a grant that will provide funding, a considerable amount of funding, up to $300,000 for 2 years, $300,000 each year. We are also applying for a grant that would help us. We've had to back off giving our children the things we used to give them. The amount of money we used to spend on them at Christmas. They used to get a $50 Visa card for their birthday. We've had to cut all of that way back. So we're in the process of trying to put together a grant for those kinds of things. So we are doing all we can to help general fund and to relieve general fund of some of the expenses that we incur. I just wanted to make sure that the commissioners, and I do know that you are aware and you have expressed support for that, but I wanted to make sure the public knew that the board is aggressively working, trying to find monies anywhere that we can. And I also wanted to express appreciation, and I'm sure it's from all of the board members, as well as Jason and Myra, that you hear our plight, that you understand our plight, because we're not talking about just bucks, we're talking about children. We need to be as frugal as we can, but we need to keep caseworkers. We need to have them there long enough to know their job, because training is required. Very often, as soon as the training is completed, they are gone, the stress level and the pay level. And at this point, it does not seem to be a matter that they're upset with the board or they're upset with Mr. Mantell or with Mrs. Adams. It's just the stress level. So I just want to make sure that the public, as well as the commissioners, are aware we truly are working the plan to try to find the monies, Mr. Powell. For my hope is, if the commissioners provide the funding for this year, that these grants, now, they're not going to be large enough to take over everything, but they will if we can get them. And all we can tell you is we're not professional grant writers. We do have a lady that's going to write the grant for us and is doing it for nothing, that has been successful with grants. We're working hard to try to get that accomplished. If we can get those monies, I am hopeful that that is going to begin a very small piece of the puzzle, and if we are able to work on this 12 to 22 month. However, everybody has to understand, and I didn't until I went in and talked with the attorney, this 12 to 22 months, that's well and good, and that puts us over into permanency. But then you have to find an adoptive parent. That's right. And that's not always an easy thing. So they're not off our books, but they are ready for adoption. And so, without belaboring the point, I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware the board is working. We're working on the finances, and we truly are trying to be helpful. Having said that, I've said enough.
And Pat, I appreciate your help. I know we've had several conversations regarding grants, and we appreciate the work, because I know you and Donna, and help me with the other lady's name, Marquita, have been working very hard, gathering all the required data for these grants. And like you said, do we know we're going to get it? We don't. We hope. But that, it's one of those question marks. And if we get it, great. If we don't, we're kind of still in the same situation. Now, I do have and you were on the list, so we were getting to you. Well, at least the grants anyway. No, you're fine. You're fine. We're okay to jump around. With the grants we're currently working on, are they for new programs, or can they be used for current expenses, or is it money that's just being, that we're able to utilize so there's not a burden on the general fund? I mean, is that, if you want to?
Looked at do not pay for indirect costs, such as the boarding costs.
Such as boarding.
They want to see some new or innovative way of using a program. What we're working on right now is for them to fund for 2 years a caseworker that would be dedicated entirely to the foster care program, to soliciting for foster care parents, to providing support to the children and to the foster parents, and those kinds of things. The smaller grant would be for the incidentals that we think CPS children should have, just like other homes have. But what is evident in the grants that we've looked at is they do not want to fund indirect costs such as boarding. They want to see, okay, you got in the hole, what are the kinds of things you're going to do to get out of it? Sustainability is one of their issues. We believe that we can share with them, and we hope we can make them understand. We can't guarantee how many foster parents will come from that caseworker working on it, but we can guarantee what we have done to try to get those foster care parents, and we believe, because of the kind of organization that this one is, we believe that they will hear that, and I'm hoping that's going to help us be successful with it. But to answer your question on the short answer, we haven't found a grant yet, and I've looked at several, that will fund indirect costs.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Pat, for that. And I think that grant program probably ties into, is there any questions on grants before I? Okay. That grant for foster care ties into one of the action items was foster care parent recruitment. I think we all know that's an issue. I think Commissioner Davis said we have 24. That's still the accurate number. And just so the public's aware, because through CPS, I think we need to designate that. We have more than just 24 foster families in the county. Some of them may go elsewhere, whether, for whatever reason, but 24 for us, and the goal is to increase that, because if they're in our system, it's, quite honestly, it's cheaper. If we're managing the workload, it's about half the cost. So I hear you talk about getting a grant for foster care recruitment. Is there something else tied to that line item? The goal is to get to 50 foster families, I think is what the board has. So potentially, once again, a potential, if you have 50 foster families, they'll have 2 kids, could be $1 million in savings. And I say could be. Is 50 without the grant, without the extra help, is that reasonable, actionable? Can we get there? What's the barriers? I just kind of want to understand, like, can we get it?
Yeah, I don't see, if what you're referencing is like within 6 months, I don't know that, is that accurate?
Maybe. Foster is actually through the end of the year.
Okay.
So 50 over the next
So I don't think
8.
50 is unattainable. It will depend on how quick, and again, it depends on this grant, and Pat, correct me, I think this won't be effective until the fall?
Right.
Okay.
That is part of the issue. The grant cycle for them, we will be turning it in, I hope shortly. But they will not be releasing money until September.
Okay.
So we have to wait on the fall. Now, again, the Wendy's Wonderful Kids situation won't help with foster parent recruitment necessarily, but it could help, obviously, offset some time that a caseworker will be spending. So if that goes very well, if the Dave Thomas Foundation, if that piece goes well, we could potentially utilize a person who is currently doing that to do more foster care recruitment. So I don't think it's, and I don't think 50 is a crazy number.
Okay.
It would be challenging for the remainder of the year to double our population. We can, again, online options are available, but there are still pieces that our agency has to pick up. And again, that's what makes it challenging right now. We have as I've expressed, and you've heard me say, we've had one person working within 2 departments trying to do a couple of jobs, which is extremely challenging, but that's because we've had to pull from one to address another. And so with that, it does slow the process. It doesn't allow us to get out and do home audits as quickly as we would if we had 2 people. We're working to eliminate that. We have multiple, that takes additional training. And please understand, additional training doesn't equal additional pay. So the person really has to want and have a passion for that, or really just, want to do that long term. So, we have right now, we have a staff member who will be certified to do that in March, another one in April, and then another one has recently started. And again, we're fortunate to have it. I know in the past we've had to, for lack of a better term, rent our people to do these because there are counties who do not have an assessor. And that's how challenging it is, because again, typically it doesn't come with a pay raise or a new title. It just comes with, it's something you have to really want to do. So we can work toward that number. We will work toward that number. But again, it's like everything else. It's dependent upon how quickly other things can be accomplished.
And in a perfect system, which we know this isn't, just due to resources, how long does it take to become a foster family with the online? I know a lot of it's self-directed.
It is. It really is. It's dependent on that. I mean, that's something I'd like to get back with you. Again, it is, and it depends on the family, because what the state has done is allow things to be online for working families, because again, it used to be multiple trips to Athens, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you have children of your own, you're working, you have responsibilities with maybe older family members, that can be challenging. And those are a lot of the people who want to do this, people who have lived, have big families, who have taken care of people, either elderly or young, and these are the ones who want to do it. So I do credit the state to some degree for allowing this to be online. So I could get something back to you on that as far as a rough time frame, but it's going to take classes, audits, certification. It's not going to be finished in a few weeks.
It's a months long.
It's a month.
process.
Yes, that's a fair statement.
So months, 2, 3.
Yeah,
And that's if everything goes
I think
perfect.
and that's if everything goes well. And again, what we've had happen is some people run into, I know as far as the training goes, I believe it's 36 hours online training, and then there are required trainings annually. So and those are things, we have packets available. I know I've provided some to people who have asked, but we have packets readily available. So if someone is interested and is passing by our office and is interested, we have pre-made packets. You can walk up. You won't be there 30 seconds unless you want to chat, and you're welcome to do that. But we have pre-made packets actually right below my mailbox, and our staff knows where they are. They can pass them out if you have time. We can, we'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more. So, and part of it is on us. We have to, in order for us to expedite the process, we have to have people who are legally allowed to certify. And right now, that's not a strong point for us. So, we should be able to increase that in the spring as far as the home audit piece. But people could come now and start the classes, and you can get that completed. And probably by the time people have time to complete that, we'll be up and ready with 1 or 2 more people to certify homes.
I would like, I don't know if it's a comment or a question, but what I'm hearing is the time it takes to find foster parents and everything that you're doing to find these families is taking away from your actual observance of the children and visits and all that kind of thing. And so a few weeks ago, we met with an organization, NECO, and I know their mission is to find foster parents, adoptions. They do independent living. They do many things, and they're already geared for that. So shortly after our meeting with them, I think I was talking to you, and recommended that they had submitted a contract to your organization. And I don't know where it went. I know I was talking to you and I said that perhaps, I know you had a lot of questions at the time about NECO or an organization like them. It doesn't have to be them. But I recommended that perhaps y'all have a meeting and invite someone from NECO to answer your questions and see if that was a possibility that might help in the long run. How did that work out?
Are you talking to me or
Well,
or talking to John?
actually,
I'm sorry.
John, I think that I had posed the question or the suggestion to you, and you were going to go back and,
Yeah, so I spoke with Jason. I know Jason has, his office has the contacts. Jason's office has the contacts. They deal with NECO. NECO has, I don't recall how many kids, I don't know, Mara, you and Jason do. They have quite a few of our kids. 60-some. So our last financial meeting, I spoke with Jason about giving an invitation to them to come to one of our meetings, just to kind of, we had a multitude of things to discuss, cost savings plans and other things. And I believe that Jason did give an invite, and they had some other things going on that, possibly they could have done it via Skype or something. But I don't believe that the board has not met with NECO. And I think, that's something we've been in discussion about. I don't know that we know exactly, and it's probably something we need to explore more, Kathy, to know exactly how much money it's going to save us. I think there's been kind of, with all of the NECOs and all the different agencies, they double the price of what it costs us in our own foster care. So, I think there's got to be some, when you take all of your kids and you go to NECO, then obviously that does some things with caseworkers, the ones that we employ. And if we go over to that, the question is that if it doesn't work out and the costs are even greater, how do we come back? Once we've basically, we wouldn't be employing some of our caseworkers. So how do we come back from that? So there has been some discussion on that. We haven't met to exactly see, and I don't know if Jason, have you done any more have you had any more dealings with NECO?
So, John, to your point, there is someone who resides in northern Kentucky. They're all over this general region, and she was not able to attend. It was a short notice invitation situation, but they were willing to meet either via phone or some other online option. To John's point, so I've not had a contract, Kathy, presented to me. I had a very early discussion within my first few weeks on the job with a gentleman from NECO. It was not really extensive. He was just, talking about, hey, we already contract. Here are some things to think about, that type of thing. That would be at the pleasure of the board as far as what they want to consider. And John makes some good points. And I want to clarify one thing about outside agencies. The reason we're talking about it being twice as much, there are administrative fees involved. So when we're talking about twice as much, it's not as if their foster parents are making twice as much as ours. There are administrative fees with the private sector that are involved. NECO does provide a lot of different options, Kathy, to your point. They provide options, and they're able to bill Medicaid, which is something we're not able to do. So their business model, they have one. We don't. We're a government entity. So again, it's very different, their system compared to ours. Now, they do care for children in the same way that our homes care for children. But, to John's point, there is a lot to that. There's a lot to consider. They do have quite a few of our children. They've been for the most part, I think, a quality partner. And we have some other quality partners as well. I want to be fair. It's not just one. They happen to be the largest in our region. So, if our discussions with them are regular, but they're typically about, hey, do you have placement for this child? But no, I do have multiple contacts there, and if anyone would like to set up that conversation, we're open to that. But again, as John pointed out, there are a lot of things to consider with staffing and current foster parents, because what we wouldn't want to do is alienate our current foster parents who are very dedicated and want to work for Children's Services without at least having an understanding of why this would be considered.
thank you.
May I interject?
Mhm.
I read through my notes, and when Mr. Howard was was our temporary director. He actually had a conversation, and I don't know how many of the board members will remember, but I wrote it down. At the time, the negotiations that they were talking about, it was going to cost our agency $100,000 more than we were currently paying if we had gone with NECA for some of those services. So now that was when Mr. Howard was there, and maybe they've ratcheted things down or maybe they've ratcheted it up, but I do know at that point that was investigated. And Myra, you may or may not remember that, but I have in my notes that Mr. Howard did present that to us and shared that it would be $100,000 more than we're currently, at that time, we were currently paying.
Any additional questions?
No, I still, it's just a recommendation for me at the, when you're looking at the amount of money you're requesting, that any opportunity you have to check things out, I still would recommend that you have a meeting with them or someone like them, and your board sit down with them, and you have questions. You've raised some of them here, but without talking to them directly or having a contract or something, you're just, except for Mr. Howard's, of course, but that was, 2 years ago now? So I still think it would be a good idea for you to look into that, to go that direction. Have a meeting, ask your questions, see, and if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, but at least you would have pursued it to the point where you can find out for sure. We're talking about a lot of money, and I know additional monies, you don't want to spend additional monies, but it may be the case where in the long run, this would save money over a period of years, or at least place children quicker and give your department or your organization more time to deal with the cases that you have on hand. So it's just a recommendation, and it's up to you all. You're the board. You make, you have to make that decision. But I would just recommend any outlet that you could pursue to try to help your operating costs.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
I wanted you to know, you made a recommendation at that finance meeting. I was the chair of the finance meeting. I didn't want you to think that that fell on deaf ears, what you said about NECA. We did make some calls. At that time, we kind of got, we got hit right in the face with all this, trying to do studies of long-term, how much money we're going to need, where can we save. We're looking at, from the Title IV-E, things we can do with that, to things we can do with foster parents, to moving into permanency and adoptions. And we had like a multitude. And it's been really, that this board has been more busy in the last months than probably ever, trying to figure out things with, passport, several grants and things. So, I appreciate what your suggestions on that. And I think that the complexity of that also is that, if we reduce the 50, what does that do to, to figure exact dollars when we get into that moving target with dollars again, what does that do with salaries? What reduction do we have in workforce in order to do? So it's going to be very complex. So I think it's something that we do need to look into as a board. We really haven't put a whole lot of effort in it yet because we've been trying to put out a big fire that was like really, really big, and it's not out yet, but we're still working on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
So has there been any conversation with any of the outside agencies about reducing their fees?
About them to negotiate their fees down?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so we do negotiate contracts, and NECA was one. Mara and I have recently, there were a lot of different rates. Mara, I think, what we have, like 15 different rates or something like that at one point.
We've got it down to maybe 5 now.
Because of the nature of the needs of the children. So
Sure.
we have negotiated. I mean, the issue we run into, and to the point, Brian, that you made earlier, the need for care is so great. a lot of times it's kind of like, well, if you, and I'm not targeting this at NECO. I want to be clear. They have not said this to us, but private sector can say, well, listen, we have this contract. Someone else will pay this for this. Now, again, I want to be very clear. That was not said to us. I don't want to put a black eye on anybody, but that's kind of where we are. So we have to be very careful. We do, and we've been as frugal as possible. We have discussions. If there's a number that I think is too high or I don't like, yes, I have personally negotiated for specific children, because there are cases where, it could be hundreds of dollars a day. And if I said, hey, we can't do that. And if it seems excessive, the contracts go through Mara. Mara calls me. She's like, hey, I want your, this is your decision to make, and it is. So there are times we'll say, no, we can't afford that. And in fairness to the agencies or the outside entities, typically they will work with us. So Brian, yes, we do negotiate. It's a yearly contractual discussion. But like everyone else, their costs go up. So when we can get a reduced cost for a child, we do. And some of those are based on individual, not necessarily I hate to use the word typical, but you have your typical situation, which really is a poor choice of words because every situation is its own and different. But when we have a child with a lot more challenges, we have to have a very frank discussion sometimes. I mean, we may be talking $500 a day. Which is excessive. Sometimes DD is willing to work with us on that. They've been a great partner on helping with payments, and so I want to give credit to Matt Purcell and his group as well. But there's bargaining, but it's challenging because costs are not going down, and we've never been turned away for a number we've offered. If that helps.
Okay. Is there any, I know, Pat, we had talked about a levy and what we may think that may look like as far as the middle level. Has there been any more discussion about that with Auditor Green or anyone like that? Because I think it's important if we're going to have this conversation, and it sounds like we're going to with our citizens, our neighbors, in funding at a greater level, children's services. There's already a 1 mil levy that has not increased in value for years and years and years. And by the way, other counties are doing this. Adams just approved one, I think. Hamilton's doing one because, and I quote, the number of kids and the severity of the trauma. Their costs are just going through the roof. That's hard to hear those words, severity of trauma. That's sad, isn't it? But that's what we're dealing with, and that even speaks to some of the wraparound services that NECO provides in their contract. They do a lot of mental health, stuff like that. They provide that with foster care, but that's another conversation. But has there been any figure as far as that level and what that would take in order to plug this funding hole? Because I think, our people already pay significant taxes and nobody's looking to do more. So in order to have that discussion, we need to, justify it and also quantify it. So what does that look like?
Well, I did meet with the auditor because that's going to be part of the
That's part of the plan.
grant and so forth.
Yeah.
I have a meeting set up, Donna and I have a meeting set up with John for tomorrow to go over, because he's finance chair, to go over what the options are. And after we have that meeting, then we will proceed with, a discussion with the board and with, I had told Mr. Powell that after John and I met, that I would like to meet with him rather, and share the information and let you people take a look at it as well, because I see this as a two-edged sword. I do think people in Scioto County care about kids. I also think that given the economy and things like that, it's going to be tough. I think what we have to look at is what it will cost the homeowners and try to pair in what we believe they can go for, they will go for, and not just throw out a number. So that is a discussion. That is something that we have to include in the grant, that's part of sustainability and those kinds of things. And so we do have to have that conversation. And as I said, Mr. Howard and Mrs. Cunningham and I are going to meet tomorrow at 10, and that will be followed up from just our thought process. The board will need to have a discussion with the board and want to have a discussion, and I'm saying Mr. Powell simply because he's the chairperson, and I don't want to violate any sunshine laws or anything else.
And that's the point.
And
Can't violate quorum
well-
issues, and that's really what we've been trying to combat this whole time, is that it's just so the public knows, it's very hard for us to meet as a group, unless we're in public session. So a lot of times that falls on the chairman.
Well,
It
and I
just
wanted
does.
this to be a work session, and so that's why I wanted to share information with Mr. Powell that he could share with you guys, and you can, think about things. And the board, we definitely want to share it with the board, but we do need to soon, and I mean soon, kick in the direction that we're going, because, we really want to get this grant done. Mrs. Riebenhoff's been very kind. She's doing it for nothing. She's got a lot of irons in the fire. And I'll be honest with you, we've worked a long time on this and got a thick notebook, and we want to get it done. And then we hope we can also do some other grants. But I'm sure sustainability is always going to be a part of it. And so that's not something that we're neglecting in any way. And we are moving forward. And I think Scotty will tell you that I made a phone call to him and said, after meeting with the finance, and I don't know if Mr. Barnett will be able to be there tomorrow because he works, but we want to make sure that we just want to have that discussion and be legal with that discussion, and kind of have a work session, and then go with it from there.
Any additional questions?
This time.
I did want to hit on, I haven't hit Title 4E. We have 107 kids not receiving these funds. This is a type of funding mechanism. The plan calls for 50, I think. If we could get 50 potentially eligible, that's a savings of $500,000. I know somebody was reviewing these, I think, Jason. Somebody, maybe ODGFS, or somebody was helping review some technical support. Where are we at with that? And then the plan also mentioned some training for whether it be the staff or the judges, specific to Title 4E eligibility and kind of what that documentation needs to look like. So can you speak to both of those things?
So the first question, Mara, who is sitting to my left, for those who obviously cannot see, Mara has been in contact with the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. We do have a contact, someone who oversees this. Mara has a good relationship with that individual, and based on the exploration that person has already done, in addition to what Mara's done, we are conducting this appropriately. The number is high, which they acknowledge, but based on what they have found, there is not anyone currently in that number. And again, they're still going through it, but they have not found an individual child or family unit who is not eligible, who would be eligible if we did something else. Again, I want to say that if they find something, they will share that with us. Is that accurate, Mara?
Yeah. So that's an ongoing assessment. Do we have an idea of how many they've gone through, or do we know where they're at?
One of the problems that we're having is getting verification of incomes from the parents when we pick the child up. If we can't get verification of the parents' income, then they're automatically not eligible.
Okay, and verification would be whether it be a pay stub or, what if they don't work? How do you verify I don't work?
We need them to tell us they
Sign a
don't work,
document or something?
Yeah, just give us the information, and then we can make them eligible.
Okay. And of that 107, and I'm putting you on the spot, Mara, I apologize. How many of those fall in the category that we just don't have all the information?
I would say probably between 40 and 50.
Okay,
But if we can eventually get the information, we can go back and make that child 4E eligible. So we're trying as hard as we can to get the information.
and is this something, and maybe it's a question for the judge, is that something the judge can force? Hey, we're making
Hold them in
this,
contempt.
thou shalt submit.
Without speaking direct, I don't want to speak directly for the
Yeah, I
judge.
understand that.
We've had this conversation. They have been willing, they have shown willingness to do that, assuming the parent is at court,
Compliant,
attends court. So, there have been some situations where we have had the opportunity to do that, and the judge has, I've not been in a hearing where I've witnessed or heard him say that, but the understanding is that if we have an issue, that we can share it, moving forward. I don't think that this was shared with, I don't know that this issue was ever shared with the judge. I mean, I have shared it, I want to be clear. Mara brought it to my attention, I did bring it, because again, I didn't, when I got it here, I didn't realize that was part of it. So, the judge has shown a willingness if we have an issue. A lot of these are children who we've had before, I knew or the judge knew it was an issue. And so it's, and again, it is something that Mara does check regularly, and her staff does that. So we're hopeful that we could get, and again, to Mara's point, there are 40 or 50, we're hoping, because some of the kids may not be eligible. There are immediate indicators that make them ineligible for 4E. Would it be, could be if the family income is a certain amount, 2-parent household, that kind of thing, makes them ineligible. So in a perfect world, we'd love for all 40 or 50 to become 4E eligible, which would allow us to recoup, 60-ish percent? 64%. So again, even with that, it's a lot of money you're picking up, but we're still 36% where we're making up the difference. And again, that's mild compared to, I would much rather pay 36% than 100%.
Another qualification is that they are deemed neglected, officially by the judge, or is that another qualification? It's not.
I've not seen that. No.
Okay. Another concern we have is the number of children coming out of the hospital, the infants that are not deemed abused and neglected, that have opioids in their system of some kind. And it's not all of them. It's a very low number, actually, out of the overall quantity. And that is a concern that we have. I believe that any child that is born addicted to an opioid has been neglected and has been abused. And too many of those children are being allowed to go home with their parents. And that is a concern that we have as well. Now, that does not reflect on CPS. It doesn't. Not that I understand. But it is a concern that I have, that too many of them are not being labeled correctly. And unfortunately, we also know that individuals know how to play the system. They're playing the system. And it's a real concern there as well. And we need to do all that we can to button that up. The concern there is that it increases your numbers. It can. And infants are one of the hardest ones to place. And it's tough. And it puts more of a strain on your kinship as well. And I'll mention that too, just quickly, is I think it's a shame in the state of Ohio that a kinship placement isn't treated the same as a foster placement. That a parent or grandparent, sometimes great-grandparents, they out of the goodness of their heart, that is kin, that is a relation, they take that child in, but they aren't given the same services or the support financially to take care of that child because they're related, they magically have the money to do it. That has to end. That has to be fixed. And again, that's not your fault, but we have a lot of people that are handling children, grandparents. A lot of them are on fixed incomes already. And they're, instead of letting that child disappear into a foster system, and they have no control over where that child ends up or what happens with that child for an extended period of time, they take that child in, but in a lot of times they don't have the money to buy the material And you kind of alluded to that, how can we help them with formula and wipes and diapers, and a lot of times these individuals take these children in the middle of the night and stores aren't open, so what do? You take the child and you don't have access to find diapers. And I will say this, I think the faith-based community needs to step up and help with that. I know we are in our church, I know that, and there's some efforts in regards to that in our community. I think the faith-based community needs to step up in a big way here. It is, I think it's an opportunity for our churches and our community, which we have a lot of, to step up and do what's right to help these children. And I think it's, again, another opportunity that we can have for our community to do something awesome here. But we have to work together to get there. But it's just another issue that needs to be tackled for sure. Sorry, go right ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have any other questions regarding the plan itself. Any other comments? Questions?
I will say this. I'm sorry to belabor
you're
this.
fine.
Children's, and I want to bring this up because I'm hoping, because we have covered a lot of things today, a lot of dialogue, probably way more than anybody has ever considered to be part of the issue. Because there's always that administrative side of everything, and you all are there. And you tackle a lot of issues that a lot of people have no idea comes across your desk. I mean, you just, as a volunteer board, this is probably one of the more difficult boards to serve on because of the complexity and the confidentiality that's required out of this board. But I hear a lot, and we see it a lot. Betty, you see it all the time on daily news. Why don't we just build a children's home and house them all? Well, we have 366 kids. You have to build the Hilton, okay, to do that. That's not possible. Financially, it's not possible. And not only do you have to build it, which could be upwards between $11 and $15 million to build a children's home, not to house 300 some kids. It'd be a far lower number, okay? If you could do that, you're looking at a process of licensure. And the state of Ohio is not a fan of children's homes. They have made it clear, not just the state of Ohio, federally, you fight that. They don't believe that's the model that needs to be had. They believe foster care, kinship, reunification. And we hear that term a lot too. And that's been a big problem in our community, has it not? I mean, I see a lot of heads shaking, and as a matter of fact, has literally led to tragedies in our community. It has. So we communicate this. We do. We push it up the ladder to Columbus and Washington and do all of that. But so far, that hasn't changed. They're not going to change their mind anytime soon. All the leading psychologists say this is what you need to do. And then in the meantime, we have people in our community that have been down that road, spent time in Hillcrest, spent time in other children's homes in our region. And they'll tell you, some will tell you it's good. And then there's those that will say it was terrible and it was more traumatic. So we can't go down that road with a children's home. Everybody says, don't build it, build it. You not only build it, you got to support it. You got to run it. That could be $3 million a year. We're talking, I know, we talked about 1.7 at one time, mill levy, maybe. I mean, don't hold me to that number. So what do you want, 1.7, or do you want an 11 to 15 supported by 3 every year? That's as simple as the math is, folks, okay? And I'm not saying 1.7 is the number. We talked about that a little bit because we have all these initiatives to try to lower the cost, get the cost down as much as possible. So that's what we're looking at as a community, to have that conversation. But children's homes, they're not supporting them. You're talking about an 18-month licensure, if you can even get them to say okay. And right now there's only 4. Am I right? In the state of Ohio? I think there's 4?
It's 5.
4. And someone mentioned Adams County. I saw that on there. Why not? Adams County. If they close the doors tomorrow, they would never let them reopen it. They'll tell you that down there. Okay? So, I mean, we understand what everybody's saying. We get it. We're hearing that. One of the things we're working on is a children's intake center, something that buys time for everybody. We've been working on it for some time now. I don't know if everybody noticed, real estate's went sky high. Even if we do that, we're looking at an 18-month licensure. We've been trying to find an existing licensure. Everybody's maxed out, or they already have their own thing going on, and they're like, can't do anything more right now. Need a timeout. So we're stuck in this thing. So we got to figure out ways to do it. So I just wanted to throw that out for the general public to understand that we're hearing you. We're hearing you. We're listening. It's hard to do anything about it because of people above us that are telling us this is the way it's got to be. So it's tough. It's hard. And these are difficult decisions to make. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming in and really this has been enlightening for me and all of us, I'm sure. We again want to express to you that this is nothing, that you've done or create we're never going to fix this problem until the opiate situation, because we could, if we had the possibility of building a home, those numbers, look how they've increased just since I've been here, and they're just going up, up, and up. And so we can't get into that. That's another 24-hour conversation. But until there's something done about that, this is what we're facing, and we just do the best we can. But thank you all for everything you've done, and I this is a pretty difficult board to sit on, but I would not want to be on this board right out here. So thank you all for everything you do
Thank you.
and are doing still.
Commissioner Davis, anything else?
No.
All right.
Item 18.
Item 18 is it's the request for funds. It's a $2 million request. I will tell you that I personally struggle with just giving an agency money. This sum of money, without some really substantial change, and I don't know that I see it. I see plans and things we'd like to see. So is there a different structure in which CPS can operate is really the lingering question in my mind. And I'm just putting that out there. There's 3 different ways that CPS can be ran in a county according to ORC, and that's through a board, that's through Children's Services, which is done in every county but 11, or that's privatized, which could be a NECO solution or whatnot. So I think it's fair that my mind is still very open to which of the 3 is the effective way to go. Not saying that this has been ineffective, but which system can be more reactive to crisis. And I think I've literally told everybody on this board, it's going to be hard to lead through crisis through consensus, because the nature of what we're dealing with is, it's painful, it's hard, there's tough decisions. And is there a mechanism to more rapidly do change? So I do want to put that out there, and even if the board has any thoughts on that, there's been thoughts of, shift to JFS, which is where it's done mostly. They get a lot of funding. You guys are getting funding. All your support comes through JFS. I mean, that's where this work lives in most places. Not here, but that's where it lives in most places. And then is there an opportunity to stay engaged with the board, whether it be an advisory, still helping with grants, still helping with the promotion of foster families, but in terms of the day-to-day operations, which is really what we're talking about here. This is the day-to-day $2 million operation shortfall. So I do want to put that out for the board discussion. I don't know where you guys are at on that, but when we're talking about giving an organization $2 million for a shortfall, to no fault of your own. I want to make sure that's very clear. And not have direct, and us not have direct control of the solution is where I struggle. Of course, we're going to take care of kids. Of course, we're going to make sure it's funded. But is it funding and then we're hands off again? And when I say hands off, we don't have direct responsibility for the outcome. Or do we take it with the support of the board through advisory, but in terms of the day-to-day operations? If you have thoughts now, I'd love to hear it. If you don't, it's something to think about. But there is a reason that in 77 counties across the state of Ohio, this lives under JFS. And is it synergy? Is it funding? I'm sure it's probably both of those things. So I did want to put that out there before we even move forward with this resolution, which we do have a resolution on the table. It is for the $2 million. Through ARPA funds, it's very important that the public understands these ARPA funds are one-time dollars. Eventually those monies run out, and if we don't fix this, this will start coming out of the general fund, which impacts every other service in the county, which results in cuts in every other service in the county. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. Thankfully, if there is a silver lining, there is some ARPA funds that we're able to use towards this. The way the resolution is written is up to $2 million. The initial payment, I believe, is $730,000. That gets us current and just through the end of February. Is that correct, Mara? Correct. With the idea that we will have disbursements coming, projected disbursements, whether it's through taxes or TANF or Title IV or whatever that month. And you've sent the projections, so we've seen those. But so that is the current resolution. Is there any additional thoughts or questions based on what I just said? And it's a heavy decision we have to make.
Well, I would say that the resolution needs to have something in it that says up to.
It does.
$2 million. Okay. And that we do all that we can to, as I said before, mitigate this, get this down as low as possible, because for all the reasons you just said, we've got to get that number down. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But as I mentioned, I mean, it's the kind of thing that can break a county. Okay, so I think everybody understands that. Everybody here understands that, and we're going to tackle it and try to fix it. But it's yeah, it is what it is, and we've got to do our best to reduce the amount. So, yeah. Okay.
Any comments from the board? Would this board be opposed to an advisory situation? I see a lot of blank faces looking at me. I know it is a tough decision, but I kind of want to know where you're at, because ultimately, if the commissioners would choose to go that direction, it would be a letter to the board. You would have 60 days to discuss and decide, and then it would come back to the commissioners. That is the process if we would choose to go that direction. But with most of you sitting here, I'm honestly curious, would you stay engaged from an advisory standpoint? And I can see the stress on all your faces, so I know you guys carry this with you, and I know you guys are working hard. I do. For me, it's the operations piece of it is that's where I go. That's my thought process.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
I would like to, in all due respect, put it back to you. What would you do differently if there has not been mistakes made and the budget is a open record? You can see, anybody can look at that and see that and I say this with my own feelings, I don't feel there was waste. It's a matter that we're doing more with the same amount. So I would ask you, if you were to step in, what would you do differently than what this board is doing now?
Yeah, and that's a fair question. And that's going to require some investigation I'm a big fan of looking at how it operates in other counties, because they have a model. Part of that is, though, some direct oversight of the action items you guys have even laid out. Currently, you guys have oversight every 30 days. So every 30 days we come together. If we're more engaged, and quite honestly, Tammy is more engaged, it's more rapid change, I think. I think there is such a thing of paralysis by analysis, you know, and that can happen in a board structure, not necessarily this board structure, but a board structure, where you could see something going on. There's been, like I think Commissioner Davis said, that we've been trending down since June of 2020. You know, the reserves have been disappearing since June of 2020, and we all recognize that. And now we have a plan now that we're out of money, and that's my concern. And I don't. Once again, it's nobody's fault. Like it hit quick, and the way the funding comes in, it's hard to. If you're not seeing that month-to-month look, it's hard to recognize that. But it is the day-to-day operations and the oversight and being able to rapidly pull Jason or Tammy or the different groups together to prioritize the actions that we're taking. You know, personally, I'm a Six Sigma black belt, so in the government sector, I fixed broken processes. That's what I did for a living, multi-million-dollar processes. I'm more than happy to donate my time, take time off from work to analyze the process, to map it out, to see how we can fix it. But I think something, you know, $2 million is a drastic number, so I think we have to have drastic measures. And there's a reason across the state that the model has shifted. And it's hard to not look at it personally. For me, it's process, not people. So is that process more effective? And I think that's something we have to look at. I think there's an inherent ability to respond quicker when you're not waiting on the authority every 30 days. I just think inherently there's a time savings. So, and then we've, you know, also, you know, we're going to be shouldering this financial burden in terms of from this vantage point from the commissioners, and there's going to require, in my estimate, ramping up of other services temporarily. Those are decisions we're going to have to make, whether it be through the judges' chambers. We've talked to Judge Lemons. What does that look like? How do we ramp up services so as CPS is filing these, because there's a downhill effect to every process. So it's one thing to say, hey, we want more kids out of the system, but that impacts the next group of people, in this case the court. So I've had conversations with Judge Lemons of, can we get a temporary magistrate? What does that look like? So we're talking about $2 million. The reality is, to ramp up and execute a lot of this, there's a bigger ask on top of it that's unseen. There's an operational ask on top of it that's unseen. This $2 million doesn't fix the process. It fixes paying for boarding. I mean, that's where all this money is going. It's not hiring people. It's not bringing in, like paying to bring in consultants. It's not paying to bring in marketers. It's truly paying for the boarding. That's the shortfall. So as we're looking at fixing it, the price tag is bigger, in my estimation. And that's just from a judge standpoint, which we would be paying for the overtime. We would be providing space for, if we did have a temporary magistrate, we would be paying for the overtime, because they've talked about weekend court, they've talked about evening court, to prioritize and try to clear out some of this backlog. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, and thank you. And part B to my question then, since I asked you what you would do different, what role then would be expected from this board, or what would we be able to do?
Yeah, and for me, it's some of the stuff you're doing. Like Pat and Donna, you guys have donated time that you shouldn't have to, but you're doing that because you care about kids. And quite honestly, CPS doesn't currently have the resources for grant folks, so you guys are tackling that. We know foster care is an issue, and we're going to need people to continue to carry out that message and prioritize how we attract people That's something this board could help with. You know, should we go the levy route, and hopefully we can fix it quick enough, that's something this board could help with promoting. For me, it's the operational piece of it, the day-to-day, the processing of paperwork, because that's what's costing the money, is the process of how long kids are in the system. And, you know, we're already 70-some kids past the mandated 24-month. Okay, so how do we tackle that? At the very minute level, like not the high picture level, but how do we truly go in and fix the process? That's something I would expect us to do. That's something I would expect CPS and the technical folks from CPS to help with, of course, Jason. But from an advisory stance, how can we engage the community, whether it is the faith-based community and taking in these kinship families and providing care, or engaging the community to drive in extra resources. The thing you said about kids not having $50 for Christmas, there's no reason or for their birthday, thank you, Pat, for their birthday, there's no reason in my mind that we couldn't have 300 people donate $50 to make sure that happens every year. So how do we do those types of things? I can see the board tackling some of those items. Me personally, it's the operations piece that I'm concerned with. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
You spoke several times about clearly the issues is more kids. I mean, we all know that. But you also spoke about, you know, due to the financial aspect of this, putting under Jobs and Family Services. So if we go under Jobs and Family Services, clearly there's not any more money going under Jobs and Family Services. If Tammy Moore becomes involved, what picture do you see that? How do you see that makes Children's Services better?
I think they're more rapidly able to make the change that you guys have presented. Instead of every month asking Jason what's going on, that can literally happen every day. It happen once a week. I mean, so what you guys are looking at, and when I say you guys, I mean the board. Once again, it's process, not people for me, so please don't take it personal. But it's a look every month, and then we're being reactive every month. If something happens 10 days after your meeting, you guys aren't even hearing about it. Like if somebody has resigned, that's drastically going to affect this plan, you don't even know about it yet. Because, once again, the oversight is, we're in a crisis mode, and normally in crisis mode, it's all hands on deck all the time. And from a board perspective, how can you do that? You guys all have lives from the volunteer perspective. So, once again, that's what I see. I think we can make the change rapid. I agree with everything that's here, but the execution of it is really where my head goes. Once again, because that's my training. You know, my training is in governmental procedure and process, and clearly something's broken. We have a backlog, but how do you truly go in and fix it? And that's going to require intense scrutiny, if you will, Jason. It's going to intense focus on whatever the target areas are. But I think this board can support driving foster care. I truly believe that. I think this board can support getting extra services for these kids, engaging the faith-based community, engaging the community to get resources. Once again, it's the operational piece of it. You know, how do we truly dig into these Title IV issues? Because right now you guys are very high level, and I think the fix here is going to have to be very, very micro. It's going to have to be in the weeds. And engaging in that manner. So that's what I see is different from the standard. And once again, there's a reason why counties have shifted from the model. So something's clearly working in 77 counties. Whether it is, you know, I think there's some inherent efficiencies that can be seen, synergies that can be seen that's maybe not, because they're still two separate things. That's just my opinion. That's a lot, I know. Any other questions?
I'm usually the one being accused of being wordy, so.
Well,
Could I clarify something?
please do.
So with respect, and I'm not, you know, obviously this is, anyway, with respect to your comment about the operations. I just want to be clear, and I want to be fair to your point, because I understand what you're saying. You know, when I think from someone who does provide the updates to the board, and that does come from me, I do provide regular updates. Now, you are correct, because of the size of the board, their jobs outside, they cannot meet regularly. They're not right here. So I don't disagree with that, but I want to be fair that there is communication between that. I don't think that's what you meant.
That's
I
not
just
what I
didn't,
meant.
I didn't want it to
Yeah.
be misinterpreted.
It's just the
by
ability to be responsive, because
Yeah.
when you have a board, everybody has to vote. So now we have to engage.
accurate. I just wanted to make sure that there is clarification that I do communicate, you know, typically via email because of the size of our board. It's 10 phone calls, you can imagine. So I just want to be clear about that. And then the board is receptive and there is response, but again, it's not collective just because of the size and the nature of the board. It's an impossibility until we meet. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Once again, I'm just putting it out there, whether we can debate this later, but it's just a thought when we're talking about this kind of money. But with that, if there's no other comments or questions, we have a resolution for $2 million, up to $2 million, immediate of $730,000 to get us through the end of February. That's paying the back bills as well, Mara?
Yes.
Back bills back to January or December? So we're back to December.
That takes care of 2021 back invoices,
Yes.
everything.
Everything up through
Okay.
February 28th. And then March was
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Comments or questions on the resolution? I think we've talked about this one enough.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
Chairman Powell? We didn't do a motion or voting on item 18.
Isn't it the same thing?
No.
Sorry. Let's do number 18 then.
You want me to do both?
Well, we need to do both, yeah.
Parliamentary
Well, one's a
procedure.
request, yeah, one's a request
Yeah.
for funds, the other one is
The other
the
one's
actual
the
resolution.
All right.
To
Okay.
approve the receipt of the
So,
letter.
sorry for that.
Yeah.
So, number 18, let's revisit. Request for funds. Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye. And now number 19. Or
And now
we
number-
already- okay, number 19.
We already
is
did
the
the vote.
resolution itself.
Motion to
Sorry,
adopt.
I viewed both of those the same.
Okay.
Brian made the motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt. Kathy?
Can we get a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye. All right, I'm sure there's tons of questions
Can only imagine.
on and off the agenda. We are well over, but let's take a couple. We do have another visitor.
I'm here just to introduce our company. I sent out an email just as an introduction. So we do security systems for jails, prisons, juvenile detention centers, anything detention related. We've got numerous county jails and state correctional facilities and juvenile detention centers that have our system. And I understand that you guys are looking at doing something with the closed juvenile detention center. So I, again, just stopped in and wanted to introduce.
You picked a good one.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting conversation.
Okay. But can I?
Yes, please do.
I would recommend speaking with our sheriff. Have you talked with him yet?
I'm gonna head over there after
Okay.
as well.
Sheriff Thurman is overseeing all of this, and I know that they're definitely talking with
Thank you.
vendors. And yes, you are correct in your assessment as far as what we're doing on the former juvenile detention center, changing over to a women's jail. Yeah, they're going to need your expertise. So they're talking to different vendors, but he is the one who's actually overseeing that and driving that train. Okay.
Our company is just a little bit different than the other vendors. I'll put that out there that we are completely off the shelf and non-proprietary. So you are not married to the system or our company them for service and support for the library system. So that's the key inherent difference.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tricia, is that right? Thank you.
Any questions on the agenda? There's none on the agenda online? Not here. Really? That's shocking. Hi, Betty.
It's because Betty's here.
How many you got, Betty? Because we can always do this after.
have a couple,
I have
yeah.
3, but there's one important one and I have 2 off agenda. So.
Let's hit the
Okay, go
important one.
ahead.
Yeah.
All right, the one on the agenda with the children's services, to meet benchmarks to receive funding, or are they just getting one lump sum? Also, after this allocation, how much remains in the American Rescue Plan budget?
So we have the plan in terms of as connected to the request. We hope to hit the benchmarks. I think everybody in this room, the goal is to hit benchmarks and reduce numbers. Whether they're hit or not, we'll still fund it. We have to, we're mandated.
Can I get one more on the agenda then?
And then in terms of the
Approximately 9, is that? That'd be about right?
9 mil left,
Yeah.
after this probably.
Yeah.
I can get that number.
That's off the top of our heads. We got, yeah, we'll have to get that one.
Second one on the agenda, in order to keep caseworkers safe, the Children's Services Board has asked the Sheriff's Deputy to assist with welfare checks and removals. Does today's action provide for that service?
This action provides for boarding. This action provides for the shortfall in boarding. There has been discussions, Sheriff Thurman was getting us basically the dollar amounts to fund a deputy specifically for CPS. So that is something that's being considered.
I'll do that for you today.
You got another one?
I have off agenda.
Let's do one more and then we can talk, okay? Okay.
Oh, are you gonna take it?
Off the agenda?
Thanks.
Off the agenda.
Oh, off the agenda. Oh, let me stop there.
I'm trying to get us back.
I know.
on schedule. Sorry, Betty.
Yeah, we're,
Citizens are being urged by law enforcement to contact their state representatives for mental health, hospital services, and clinical drug treatment. SOMC reminds us that they are not a mental health facility. Based on experience in hospital administration and economic development, would you recommend that we actively market our area for one or both of these services?
Can you say that again?
Yeah.
There was a lot in there, Betty.
That's a lot to read.
Yeah, there's a lot in
Again, citizens are being urged by law enforcement to contact their state representatives for mental health, hospital services, and clinical drug treatment. SOMC reminds us that they are not a mental health facility. Based on your experience in hospital administration and economic development, would you recommend that we actively market our area for one or both of these services?
There's a lot in there, so I can't speak to what law enforcement is telling people. I guess that's something to ask the sheriff or deputy or Captain Brewer. In terms of SOMC, like, my heart goes out to what they're dealing with. I'm in healthcare too. COVID has wrecked the healthcare industry, absolutely wrecked, to the point that, and I know in my industry that there are fines now being levied against healthcare employers based on vaccine rates of up to $50,000 a day. So they, I haven't spoken to anybody at SMC, I don't know if you, but from the outside looking in, they are making the necessary adjustments to stay fluid. I mean, they have to. So unfortunately, COVID has done that. In terms of marketing the area for mental health or
the
health in general,
Yeah.
I would.
To recommend that we actively market the area for hospital administration, or excuse me, the mental health facility.
I would say we have plenty of mental health in the community at this point, and not just in the rehab venue, but we have a lot of mental health providers. So I'm sure that somebody will step up and fill the void if, you know, I don't know which services SMC cut, like I'm not.
I'm just going to go off of a comment that I read earlier this morning, that a lot of people can agree that there's mental health here for the drug addicts, but not for just mental health in general. So I think that's where there's if you're not a drug addict, you're not getting mental health.
Have at it.
I think that's what they're trying to get at.
yeah, and I've read some of those comments. Apparently, there has been a change in the providers at SOMC. There is a lot of correlation and belief, and we don't know this for a fact, but that it's, connected to the drain from COVID, what happened financially to SOMC. So unfortunately, whenever you don't have the revenue, it's kind of interesting, we just spent an hour and a half talking about this, that they are cutting back on services. And what, in correlation, we're looking to not do that with children's services because we need to protect children. But we don't have the funding to do it properly, and that's what we're here today talking about. But as a private company, SOMC can make those decisions, and there's a fallout. Now, I will say this, in question to the economic aspect of it, who all remembers the receiving hospital? Mm-hmm. We had a health facility that took care of mental health aspects across our community, and the state shut them down. So, and that happened across the state. We have very few mental health. I think Athens is the closest one, mental health hospital. And so anyone who has that aspect and gets into that situation, they end up in Athens. We had a hospital. They shut it down. And unfortunately, a lot of people will tell you this, our own sheriff will tell you this. A lot of those people, unfortunately, end up in jails because they offend in some way or another, and they just sit there and spin. They go in, they come out. There were stories, 50-some arrests. They have mental health issues. They're not necessarily a hardcore drug user. They just sit there and spin in the system, and that's where we're at. And these things are being talked about at the state level. Like, y'all cut too far, cut back too far. Now, do you pay taxes at the state level or do you pay taxes local? I mean, it's all coming out of our pockets, isn't it? I mean, we're all taxpayers. At least I think everybody in this room is. Nobody likes to pay taxes, do we? Do we? I mean, nobody really likes to pay more on taxes, but that's where we're at, folks. And it's really, it's a problem. It's a problem. I mean, we're 200 in our jail, and how many of those actually need access to good mental health services? And instead, they're languishing in jail right now, waiting on their time in court, and they're not getting the mental health services they need. So, state, come down and build a hospital. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, that's the answer. And we'll give you the workers. We'll give you the healthcare professionals because we have them. They live here. So, yeah, we'll take that. Real quick, we'll take that because we'll put people to work, and those are normally good paying jobs. So, yeah, I guess that's my short answer.
Any other comments? Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
On that request of funds, on the request of funds, that we had the $730,000 shortfall. You've agreed to pay up to $2 million.
Correct.
How will that transfer happen?
So that will be handled through the auditor's office in collaboration with Mara and I'm sure Jen. It'll just flow through as you need it, up to $2 million. It's there. It's earmarked because since it's going through ARPA, there's standards that have to be met for auditing purposes. But the money is there. They'll work with Mara to make sure you guys are covered.
So you foresee like a monthly request for our shortfall?
Well, depending on what the shortfall is, depending on your disbursement, you might not have a request for a month or two, hopefully, because once again, if we're saying $2 million and almost 50% of it is gone, 730, so that's 40%.
So I just need to contact Jen.
Yep.
Yeah, and when do you know about your March disbursements? When would you know?
I don't know exactly the date that we received the levy funds. I'm thinking it's towards the middle to the end. So we may end up needing a
Yeah,
little
you'll
to get
probably have
us
an adjustment period there.
to get the levies. Yeah.
So I know a lot of it's up front, it's catching us up. Part of that is because your disbursements haven't happened yet, and we recognize that. So ideally, you won't be asking for the rest of it until closer to the end of the year if your disbursements start catching up with your activity. But that's completely up. We'll leave it up tomorrow in the auditor's office. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? No. Look,
I'll put that on the record.
you can put it on the record. I don't care. I'm just trying to get us caught up and be mindful of everybody's time. We will get you an answer, Betty. I think you know that. Was there anybody online that doesn't seem like it? Just some, okay. Any comments, Commissioner Davis?
No.
Commissioner Gorman? My closing comment is thank all of you. I know you guys are working hard on this, and I know this is heavy stuff, but thank you for coming in. I know your hearts are where they should be, and all of our hearts are is on taking care of the kids and what that looks like going forward. So thank you. But with that, I have nothing else. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.